Priced at $429 US, the Activo P1 might feel a bit on the entry level for Astell and Kern, especially considering the standard pricing of their DAPs, but compared to the actual universal market, this is pretty mid-range and even sometimes upper mid-range, with some pure mid-range options being priced at $300 US. Activo P1 is more of a stylish DAP. It tends to try to follow a more casual approach than the Audiophile industrial tech-savvy approach. P1 is made of two blocks, the aluminum block on the bottom and the polycarbonate plastic block on the top. Actually, most DAPs should have some kind of plastic interruption in their casing because aluminum is a very good Wi-Fi and Bluetooth isolator, while polycarbonate or plastic is a poor insulator for Wi-Fi and for electromagnetic signals in general. For the Activo P1, we have symmetrical buttons on the left and on the right side. As you can see, I'm holding it with just one hand. It feels really natural in my hand. Both blocks have a rounded edge on the back, so it feels super natural on my hand, although it has a very flat bottom so that I can hold it with my pinky and never lose the grip of it. We have the volume buttons on the left side of the top and the on-off and play mute button on the right side. At the top, we can find two headphone outputs, one in the 3.5mm single-ended format and one in the 4.4mm balanced format. The sound between them is different, they have a different driving power, and they sound different too. While at the bottom we have a Type-C USB input and a microSD card slot. You can put microSD cards up to 1.5 terabytes in there, while the Type-C port allows you to use the P1 as a USB DAC. Something quite important to me, the USB DAC has zero delay, you can watch movies, play games and use Activo P1 as a sound card. On the interesting parts of this DAP is that it works really fast, it has both the amplifier designed by Astell and Kern and the software too, so you can expect a very customized Android experience. It is bit perfect system-wide, so regardless of what you install on P1, it will always be bit perfect, which is super nice. It has full Google Play access and it allows you to install most apps from Play Store, so you can have your choice of streaming including Tidal, Spotify, YouTube, and everything just works brilliantly, but the display is too small for you to watch movies. I actually find my smartphone too small to watch movies, and even this monitor that I'm using while I'm looking for an upgrade from my Samsung QLED. Watching movies on this is not doable for me, but streaming music, super doable. The battery life is a highlight for Activo P1. It has up to 20 hours of battery life, one of the best and longest battery lives in the audiophile world. Although if you use the balanced headphone output, if you use Bluetooth, or if you use high resolution files, if you use streaming and if you turn the display on a lot, you can expect around 10 hours of battery life, which is still 2 to 4 hours more than most audiophile grade DAPs when used in the same conditions. So P1 is very strong and long lasting in the battery life. It does come at a cost though, because the driving power is quite low. You can expect to drive mainly EMs and portable earphones. So Susvara Unveiled, which you have right here, will be a no-go for the P1. It is quite hard to drive, although not quite as hard as the original Susvara. It is still quite hard. I love the Susvara Unveiled, but with the P1 I will mostly be using EMs like the Campfire Moon Rover, Campfire Bonneville, Sounds Avant or Sounds Flame. Those are my top choices for it and the ones I tested it with the most. While I was writing the written review for the P1, I experienced some of the craziest stuff out there because my wife's laptop died, and that's horrible because she was working on editing videos like this one and we lost all progress. We had to start over, we had to do so much overwork because her laptop died. She was working from my computer in the back. I also had a problem with the monitor. Anyways, while I was working, I had to use my smartphone connected to her Dell monitor, and the smartphone was acting like a mini computer. Then I had the smartphone connected as a Bluetooth DAC to the Activo P1, while the monitor had the keyboard and the mouse plugged in, and everything just worked somehow. This is the level of connectivity we're at. Anyways, it was quite crazy, but afterwards I did test the P1, not just as a Bluetooth DAC, but also as a USB DAC and as a standalone music player, MP3 player to be more precise. Although we call them MP3 players, only about 10% of my music is MP3, and those are the files that I couldn't find anymore anywhere. Like, you can't really purchase some music, that artists just disappeared. They don't post anymore, so you are just left with some MP3s you don't even know where you got from. So pretty cool stuff, but I mostly listen to CDs ripped from my collection, FLAC files for example, and it works beautifully with those too. As I said, really good operation as a USB DAC, which is a big part of my usage with most stuff. I noticed that it has zero background noise with all EMs, so although P1 is a specialist DAP or digital audio player driving mostly EMs, it does that really well. So it is not a specialist because it has low driving power. That would be just marketing and upselling something. But it actually has zero background noise, very good control. It has very granular volume control. So between 0 and 120, it is all for EMs, because with most headphones you won't even notice the differences between each step. It has such a fine control that most EMs lovers will be really happy with the Activo P1. Even Campfire Bonneville, Sounds Flame, Sounds Avant, even Sui Ear, He A Live 5, zero background noise. Super nice. The Activo P1 is super nice. As it works as a Bluetooth DAC, you can actually replace a few BTR7 or few BTR17 with it. It has a much better sound with EMs. Although BTR7 and BTR17 might have a very slightly higher driving power than the P1. P1 is designed around being portable, like Portable One. So you can expect the company to have invested a lot of effort into optimizing it. It consumes very little power. But back to the sound of the P1. The sound is incredibly colorful, super bright, unusual for Astell and Kern, because most people tend to purchase Astell and Kern for a smoother, relaxed sound with a slightly bloomier bass and with a really pleasing tune to it all. Activo P1 is a super transparent, revealing, quick and somewhat dry sounding player. It's unusual. It is the only player that I found that sounds this way, especially in this price segment. It's much more similar in signature to Astell & Kern Acro CA1000T than it is to Astell & Kern CP2000T or Astell & Kern SA180, although it is much closer to SA180 than its direct competition. In this price range, it would be compared against Shining M3 Ultra, and M3 Ultra has a much smoother, warmer and bloomier sound, while Astell & Kern Activo P1 is super revealing, like a straight edge stuff. It's incredibly sharp, detailed, bright, so you can't really imagine this, but the extension goes up to 20 kHz and with full strength. It has strength up to those 20 kHz. Incredibly bright. The bass is somewhat neutral, although it is very fast. You can actually hear a bit more bass than with most DAPs. Because it tends to render each bass note a bit better, you just hear every single note a bit better. That's super nice. But at the same time, it's very neutral, so everything is just super balanced and neutral. So if you are a bass head, you will not like the P1. It's super neutral and controlled, but neutral. The mid-range is sweet. It emphasizes well with all music styles, but especially with voices. It tends to render voices out of songs beautifully. Also instruments like guitars, pianos, violins. And then the bright treble tends to add a bit of sparkle and energy and presence to it all. The only music I think doesn't work very well is electronic music, and that's also because the soundstage of the P1 is on the intimate side. It tends to render everything well defined. Each instrument has its own space, its own presence and its own body, but this also means that music tends to be not so wide and expanded and holographic. So for an intimate experience, electronic music doesn't work so well. Usually for this kind of experience you want rock, metal, even pop, cabaret, slower jazz, music that's especially not club music, to be more precise. So especially not EDM, trancecore, trance and electronic music in general, or dubstep. This is the stuff I wouldn't recommend P1 for, but I would recommend it for everything that has actual instruments inside. So everything that has an instrument will be rendered beautifully, also everything that has a voice, because this is like the voice-centric dub. Such a superb voicing it has. It's super sweet with female voices. It has a gritty, somewhat grainy male voices presentation, which gives male voices a certain charm to them, a masculine energy. And the whole dub just sounds super nice in general. It does get a bit warm, and I noticed this. Even if it is not playing anything, it tends to be a bit warm, so it's like the amplifier is running in the background with an infinite impedance. And also it has a bit of a vampiric drain, so in about 4 days I lost about 20% of battery. Even if it is turned off, you should charge it every once in about 2 weeks, because otherwise you will allow the battery to discharge too much, and at some point you may be unable to revive the battery anymore. So try to charge it every once in a while if you purchase it, because it does drain by itself. I noticed this on multiple charge cycles, something to take into account. And at the end of the day, is the Activo P1 a recommended purchase? Well, if you want a super transparent DAP, yes. If you want a DAP which emphasizes voices and instruments absolutely, it does that superbly. If you want adapt to drive headphones, no, there are options with a much higher driving power and more headroom. Activo P1 is designed for EMs. It has a low background noise level, it has a good control, and it just works very well with EMs. So it is made for EMs. If you want something to power your EMs, then the Activo P1 should be one of your best choices. Another really good choice you can make is subscribing to Audiophile Heaven, liking this video if you enjoyed the content, and if you want to help us improve the content, channel, camera quality, you can donate. Every dollar helps. We have a PayPal link in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we'll see each other very soon. Bye bye!